All right, everyone. Welcome to the chat. So let me grab my other earpiece because I only have one in. Sorry for the delay. I lost track of time. So let me get, and hello, Tara and Chief. Thank you for joining me to watch this video. And can y'all hear me okay? Everything's good so far? I'm gonna make sure you put your store link into Tara if you feel like whenever you get a chance. You can always put in the link for Physical Gypsy too. So we're gonna we're going to watch this analysis. So there's three different analyses in this video. I don't know if that's how you say it. So it's gonna be Gerry McCann, John Ramsey, and Chris Proudfoot. So we're gonna watch obviously Gerry McCann's, and I think I did ask the creator also to use this video. So the whole video is linked in the description, and so is his page. So in the beginning of the video, it'll say his name and all that, but he kind of talks about like we'll bring in different points, I believe, during the analysis. So he might bring in like Chris Proudfoot's or John Ramsey's into maybe Gerry McCann's or vice versa. Some of the things they say or do because he is doing an analysis. But yeah, we're gonna focus mainly though on Gerry's because I do. If I remember right, because I tried not to watch too much of it on my own because I wanted to watch it with y'all. If I remember right, he kind of does them almost independently, pretty much. So after that too, I did want to talk about the video that I uploaded last night. If any of y'all got a chance to watch that video before we get into this video, because I had noticed that in the comment sections there was kind of a little bit of some people you could tell maybe felt that because I had posted this video and this documentary that I maybe was leaning more towards the softer side of the McCanns and feeling sorry for them and things like that, and feeling like that they should be left alone and they didn't do anything. Now and the reason I bring that up is because the documentary was made specifically to make you feel that way. So when you're watching it, you do see the side of them that you don't see in all the interviews that I uploaded independently on my channel. So I don't know if anybody here has all seen those videos yet. There's I think 4, maybe 3 interviews where they're talking about Madeline, and they're kind of very stoic, not very emotional, things like that. So you look at this documentary I posted last night, and they're a little bit more emotional, like getting more deep into things and like, crying a little bit more, things like that. So with that kind of being said, I kind of wanted to say that I do see why some people say in the sense that they feel bad for them because they feel like even if it was an accident or she was abducted, they feel like they didn't really have much to do with that. Now, I don't feel she was abducted, so I can't really comment on that part of it that much. But as far as the other part of it, of how she, possibly passed, if that's the situation, I do feel like they are aware of what happened, and I do feel like they were involved in it. So for that alone, they are guilty because they also left those kids there. So that also makes them guilty. You can't leave 3 kids under the age of 3 alone. Like something's going to happen because they're not going to be able to get out of the room themselves. They're not going to be able to, you know, like alert everybody if something's happening and, get to where they need to go. So, alone leaving the kids in that kind of situation makes you automatically kind of guilty for whatever happens to them because you are their guardian, you're the adult. So we're going to kind of get into the analysis here, and then we might stop and kind of pause through it, and then we'll kind of get into some of the other points from the video last night and just things that I kind of wanted to say on that as far as, feeling sorry for the McCanns and how, I feel about that. But let's go ahead and pull up the analysis video. So
Hello everybody, I'm Mike the Man. Welcome to my channel. In an embedded confession, the subject usually references an accusation and then quickly moves into his or her own language, giving you actual events as they have taken place. So what the person is doing is not doing. He is not quoting somebody. Police said, we are investigating the McCanns for the possibility that, no, what they are doing is referencing the accusation or the people, the potential accuser, or they speak directly to them. When somebody says, for example, well, I guess you think that
I also did pre-record this, so
hello
yeah.
everybody, I'm Mike the Man. Welcome to my channel. In an embedded confession, the subject usually references an accusation and then quickly moves into his or her own language, giving you actual events as they have taken place. So what the person is doing is not doing. He is not quoting somebody. Police said, we are investigating the McCanns for the possibility that, no, what they are doing is referencing the accusation or the people, the potential accuser, or they speak directly to them. When somebody says, for example, well, I guess you think that after I left the house, I went through the back door, I went upstairs, then I killed my wife, then I took my time for 2 hours to clean everything up, and then I exited through the back door and went around the block and came through my front door to make sure that I was seen, and people assumed I just gotten back from the game. Something like that. And it happens all of the time. And somebody says, well, so let me get it straight. You probably think that, and people tell you actually what they did. And in these cases, the experiential memory takes over and they tell you very flawlessly what actually they did. And they feel comfortable doing it because they are masking it as somebody else's accusation. And with it, when they do that, they often want to test what you know about the case, how you perceive what they state. They will bring a denial with it. In the case of Gerry McCann, for example, after it, he talked about how would we have done that? How would we have had time? The first one is by Gerry McCann, and you can see it on Richard D. Hall interviews Peter Hyatt, an 8-year-old video that I have recently rewatched. And here is what Peter Hyatt rightfully called the embedded confession, also known as the crown of statement analysis. I mean, that's my term that I'm coining. The crown of an analysis is when you work your way towards it. And if you watch that video with Peter Hyatt and Richard D. Hall, the embedded confession comes towards the end, which is not unusual. Masked as a denial or even as an absurdity. The subject wants to get it off their chest what police may think or what they feel accused of. Sometimes they are the ones who introduce a scenario that hasn't even been a part of the accusation, but this is exactly what's coming to their mind at the moment, what they could be guilty of, what they are guilty of. Gerry McCann says, I suppose what's been purported from Portugal is that, and I already cut it off after that, because now the embedded confession begins. He says Madeleine died in the apartment by an accident and we hid her body. And I believe his language. He is telling us in his own language what had happened to Madeleine McCann. Then Gerry moves into, as I have already mentioned, asking, how could I have done this? There was not enough time. You mean we went out to meet our friends, then we checked on her, and then an hour later we checked on them again, the kids again, and how would we have had time? And of course, a suggestion that Richard introduced within the video was, well, a lot of people think that she may have passed away a long time before that, and that the meeting at night was actually like an alibi the establishing of an alibi, that she had previously died, and Peter agreed, and so do I, having watched it and having had the statements right there on the screen. He inserted the video clips of them giving the statements, and then you had the statements right up there while Peter was speaking and analyzing it. And the purpose was trying to make what happened sound like it couldn't have had happened. With questions, with pauses, wanting to see how does the interviewer react? What do they know? What questions may they come up with? How far ahead are they in their investigation? Is the interviewer going to say, well, police, we just had police tell us that it could have been done yesterday because you were seen doing this or that. You see, they're moving forward pretty systematically after people give an embedded confession. There is a reason, a purpose behind it, because that is the one thing that they don't want you to think is possible. So it's almost like gaslighting the public. I suppose what's been purported from Portugal, okay, has it been purported or not? What's your source? I suppose. So he already makes it sound like, is that all they got? What a bunch of nonsense. But then he moves into his own language and he says, Madeleine died in the apartment by an accident and we hid her body. So he told us several things. Madeleine is dead. She died in an apartment, in the apartment. Not somewhere out there. She never made it out. She never got abducted. It was an accident. And the language of the mother also suggests that, because she talks about we were cuddling, which may have occurred after she already passed. There was still unity between her and her daughter. It would have not been the case had it been on purpose, had they killed her on purpose. They haven't. And when they talk about disposing, how would we have disposed of the body, and then they turned it from disposed of to hidden, and that it was actually respectful language. He didn't say, how would we have dumped the body or anything like that. This was Gerry McCann's, in my opinion, his embedded confession, where he told us what happened that night. And embedded confessions are very important. We cannot miss them, even if they're partial confessions. When somebody introduces what happens, wants to be the first one to introduce something that happened, and then see your reaction, or then try to explain to you why that could not be the case. They feel a need to tell you what happened, but with the premise, there is absolutely no way. Do not look into this direction, because you may ask yourself, why would they do that? Why would people do that? It's very simple, because this is the closest you can get to the truth in one sentence. And they would rather be the ones introducing it to you with the opportunity to let you know why. They want you to think it could have not taken place. And people do it all of the time. Look for the embedded confession every time somebody, a person of interest or a suspect, is making a statement, is being interviewed. People have a tendency to tell you what actually took place. We are not that complex. Even though the McCanns are intelligent people, they're both doctors. And of course, the question was, why would they not have called the police about it being an accident? Because A, she was already passed. They realized she was no longer with us. So there was no need for an ambulance. There was no need for any of that. There was nothing left to do to help her. And Kate, right? Kate McCann, her language reveals that there was not once that she called out to a potential kidnapper, and no urgency. She sat there and she reminisced a lot. She was very nostalgic about her daughter in other interviews. And nostalgia, when nostalgia is being introduced by the parents of a missing child, that indicates that there is no future to focus on. They don't say, I can't wait, we need to find him, he's gonna come back. They don't go into the, I want people to remember him kind of stuff at all. Forget the past. I want him back. We are living now. I want my son in my future. That's what would be expected from Katie Proudfoot. And just like Kate McCann, she failed to do that. She has not done any of the things expected from the mother of a missing child. No concern expressed about how is he doing right now? Is he cold? Is he starving? Is he being abused? Is he crying for me? None of that, because the McCanns, they have processed the death of Maddie. They are past that, which is why they seem calm. And yes, they have mourned, but they have mourned quickly and probably mourn in private. And the reason, of course, they don't want you to know, they don't want law enforcement to know what took place, because they can, first of all, lose their freedom, because as physicians, if it comes out that they have over-medicated the children simply so they can go out and have fun, don't need a babysitter, that could lead to criminal prosecution, especially in their case, because they should know how much to administer. But again, in the same interview, Gerry McCann introduced also a fall. the same way Katie Proudfoot has done twice. Did you fall out of bed? And at the later time, she uses the language, don't let his face fall to the bottom of the feet. It is a very strange way to put it, just like bulldozing him down with hugs. And in this particular case, the bulldozer reference kind of stands on its own right now. But the face falling to the bottom aligns with, did you fall out of bed? And later on, Chris Proudfoot saying, is he on the other side of the bed? Which was also a strange comment, right? So when we listen to the language repeatedly used, what we can detect are the pieces to the puzzle where we have not yet seen where they fit, but they are now starting to fit. So the puzzle pieces that are important, the flags, we put them in a certain spot where they are always in front of us. And we say, this is out of the norm. This is not normal. There's something, either somebody gives us information that is not necessary, unnecessary information, or there could be a denial that seems, well, it starts off reliable, but after the no, I didn't do it, the sentence continues with word after word after word, and sometimes something else is introduced. So they didn't want the police to know what happened because they could have faced criminal prosecution. They could have lost their license to practice medicine. And even in this case, it may not have, we don't know how much it was that she was administered, because Gerry McCann introducing the fall indicates she was able to get up at one point and got out of bed, fell. Maybe she hit her head on the bed on somewhere and passed away from that. And I've stated it before, when you sleep in a natural state, or you get tired and you start to fall asleep, you adjust yourself so you're comfortable in bed. But have you seen how people, back in the days, the early days of the internet, I guess, you saw a lot of pictures of people being passed out drunk in all types of different positions. Well, it's not that different from taking too much sleep aid. On these days, you see the fentanyl zombies on the street that are passing out in all kind of positions. So it is easier to simply fall asleep in an awkward position because you're all of a sudden so unbelievably tired. You may one minute sit up, play with your toys, and then just lean back. And so it could have been a nerve gets cut off, or your leg falls asleep. So in such a state, a child would jump out of bed, the legs may give in. And she may have jumped off that bed several times successfully, but not in that moment. This is just what I'm thinking. This is just my opinion. This is just how it's playing out in my mind. And this particular interview by Richard D. Hall, the interview conducted with the McCanns that's being referenced in his video, that is not the only one. I have examined the McCanns extensively, especially back then. But everything sort of goes back to this one analysis by Peter Hyatt. And I don't know if he picked this particular interview and said there's a lot here, or if Richard picked it, but that one was packed.
Also, I'm only pausing so everybody knows this is actually live. I don't think the people in the chat knew that. So we're pausing in between and talking about different stuff. But I'm going to let him finish up about the McCann and probably stop and then go into some of the video that we were talking about last night and how it shows a side of them that is a lot more remorseful than we saw in the other interviews.
Packed with all the right information. So they didn't want to, this because, and I'm saying this because a lot of people ask, well, why didn't they just call the police? Same with Summer Wells. I believe there was an accident at the water hole and Candace introduced rocks. Hunter only said she went underwater 10 or 15 seconds there. She struggled, or he wasn't that sure about the timeline, but he said that Candace and her mother were yapping it up on the side. Well, is that the whole family was negligent with their children in general. But would that have been a criminal thing not to notice? No, because you cannot watch your child all the time. And yes, accidents take place, but the people, like Candace, in her case, she didn't want police to come to the house, see how the children lived, examine them further. They had already CPS problems. I think their children are taken away now. They figured, you know what, and they didn't trust police. They always had problems with police because of their lifestyle. So people like that often, people in such situations often say, I know, when the child is deceased and they realize that she was probably dead next to the milk cartons, she probably realized or said, you know what good is police gonna do me now? Because I can't call I don't need an ambulance because my daughter's already gone. By the way, do I need to give a trigger warning? No, it's true crime, right? Be warned when it comes to my entire channel. So then there were 17 messages that Hunter has seen. He has seen the number, 17 messages between her and her drug dealer, with the last message being, it's done. So now, of course, Candace could be held criminally accountable for getting rid of the body and whatever was associated with it. So now there's not going to be anything new likely from her. Maybe one day in the future, I do not know. But she would have to first be clean. Because again, people like that do not want police. They also believe police is not going to believe me anyways because I had so many problems with them. They're going to arrest me. They're going to do something to me. That's how a lot of people who are in that type of world think. The paranoia. Actually, in this case, yeah, police probably didn't like them. Police probably had a lot of problems with them. So it's, how do they say? Just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean they're not watching me. Something like that. It is different in the case of Gerry McCann and his wife, who are prominent or fairly prominent members of their societies. But they could have lost that status if it came out that that their own daughter died as a result of Madeleine being over-medicated. They would have had to do an autopsy. They would have said, yep, this is not acceptable, and both of you will lose your income and your reputation and your status. Then we may criminally charge you, which probably in that case, I don't think there would have been incarceration, but still, the humiliation of being taken away and having to defend yourself for your freedom, in addition to mourning your child. And third, these other children would have been taken away also, just like maybe in the case of some of us. They didn't want to lose their other children. They didn't want to be investigated. They didn't want maybe they didn't want their children to be tested for drugs, because maybe it would have come out that they too, at one point recently, had been given some kind of aid to go to sleep, be it cough syrup or something stronger, worse. So questions like these are natural to come up a lot. Why didn't they just tell the truth? But you see, then the machinery began, and it was no longer possible for them to turn back and say, okay, I lied. Because suddenly it became an international event, and they went with the flow. The detectives came from the UK there to help them. They didn't want this to turn into something that would make upstanding members of their society appear unfavorable. Is that what it is? I am not going to get into what Sonia Polton talked about on my channel, but these are all speculations, and I don't go by speculations. I look for the conclusions. So now we have a second embedded confession from John Ramsey. And that was the strangest thing that I today by accident came across a Q&A with John Ramsey, and I thought,
Okay, so we are going to pause here, and then we are going to bring up Tammy. So we want to welcome Tammy to the chat, to the live. Hello, Tammy.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Been a busy day. How about you?
Same. Very busy.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So I wanted to bring you up to kind of, I don't know if you got to watch any of the video that I uploaded last night. Did you get to watch any of that video? That was a documentary from Netflix that the McCanns did.
I did. I watched a lot of it. Yep.
Okay. So when you first watched it, how did you feel like watching their emotion? Like, what did it make you feel like? Like, what did you feel like you were watching? Like a documentary on a missing child or a story about something else? But like instinctually, what did it give you?
Well, I think they were she was kind of mixed for me because
Mm-hmm.
like 1 minute I felt like she was trying to disassociate herself
Mm-hmm.
from it. And then it's like it was off and on, like she was sad for a little bit, then she would
Yeah.
try to disassociate herself. And then
Right.
she would, it was kind of like I feel like once she realized, hey, I'm showing emotion or something, or I'm not
Mm-hmm.
showing enough, I changed it to make it one way or the other. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So, but for him, I honestly don't feel like, it's, he may miss her, but
Right.
I don't feel like he emotionally misses her like
The
Kate
mom
does.
does. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'd have to say I agree with that. That was the first documentary and it's funny because the end clip that I used got, towards the end that we used to kind of, again, counteract the whole documentary and shows, again, don't forget the very end of this interview and how they tell you, they just don't tell you straightforward what happened. Even in that interview, it's a year later and they're just barely saying, oh, remember, we were going to go to a different place. We weren't even going to go to that place, remember? So like, this is a year later. And like, you're just now bringing this up, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they said they couldn't get into that place possibly, but they had reservations for the place for the whole week. So they could
Yeah.
have gotten into the place. So the whole interview at the end, again, was a lie. And you can tell even the interviewer is like, okay, like waiting for something, like you're kind of talking too much at that point,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but it kind of just shows you the difference, I guess, in it. That was very much trying to cover themselves in that interview and kind of make excuses for every single thing that happened and what they did right and what they didn't do right, or like, but that's the thing, they've never really said they haven't done anything right or wrong.
Right.
They've always made it as well, it was so close by and we didn't think anything of it. But the thing is like, they were 3 kids under 3, so regardless if they were just in the backyard, like, you can't do that, even if it really was that situation, because like, anybody who has had kids, anything can happen in a minute, 2 minutes, especially with the younger babies. Like, again, I had mentioned, gas leaks, fires, because those are also things too that can creep up and get out of control very quickly. You know what I mean? And that can hurt them before anybody gets to them. Not to mention, like, again, if Madeline did actually fall, because if you were in the house when she fell, the timing to get to her is what all that mattered. So, and then it also does boil down to like, for me, with them saying, if it really is their fault or not too, the medicine plays into it in the sense of like, how much did you give them? Because again, if it was an accident, these are 2 doctors. They would know how it's going to come out in the blood, how much would, they would know all those things.
Right.
And so they would have nothing to worry about. So that's the thing. And here's what I guess my thing is, I would have respected them a lot more from the go if they had have said, hey, we gave her some medicine to go to sleep. Maybe we gave her too much. We weren't in there. We should have been, and it happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I would have respected that a lot more than what's happened and the way they've handled it. And I think that's the issue everybody has. It's not that accidents can't happen. I sympathize with that. Like they said, you can turn your back 1 minute, anybody.
Oh yeah.
It can happen. And how many times it's happened to all of us? We talked about it with kids at the store, on same thing, on vacation. I went on a cruise with my son, my oldest son, he is autistic too. Again, he does wander off here and there, that he wasn't doing this. So I literally turned around and looked up at the TV board for just a minute, like probably 30 seconds, and turned back around. And he was already halfway across the pool, from the pools going up the stairs trying to get on the slide. And I had to like take off so quickly after him. So yeah, it's true. Anything can happen. And if I wouldn't have seen him, God forbid, I don't know what could have happened. And I'm glad that I saw him, but the thing is, and you have to take responsibility for that and say, I did something wrong. I looked away for too long and I shouldn't have, or he wouldn't have got away from me. And as much as I don't want to say that, it would be true. As much as they don't want to say they messed up, whether they gave her too much medicine or they just left them alone too long and something happens, again, that makes them guilty. So I think that's all it is. It's not that people are trying to crucify them. It's that they won't even admit what they did.
Right. And again, if they weren't guilty of something, like if something happened with one of my grandsons or my granddaughters and I was there, I would automatically call 911 because I'm not guilty of anything, of maybe turning my head or going to the bathroom, or,
and even though at that, just say you did just turn your head or go to the bathroom, you probably would feel guilty even for that, and you shouldn't. So for them to not feel guilty about sitting 49.4 yards away, if you want to be accurate, quoting Kate, like that's distasteful and that's not acceptable. And that's what I guess this is, and when we're talking about analyzing, the purpose of analyzing is to understand what happened to Madeline, how we could possibly find her if their story's true, which we know it's not true because there's no evidence to show that. So here's the thing, they're playing off of emotions. And even when she went missing, they wanted you looking for, and yes, she did have a defect of her eye, things like that. But it was to throw you off of actually looking at them or looking at any evidence around them. It was like, go look for little kids with a spot on their eye. You know what I mean? Like it's like shiny things, you know what I mean? It gives them time to do what they need to do, and things like that. But I'm just saying, they were telling you to look for all the wrong things and never asking you to to look for the right things. And they just weren't saying the right things. You look at those interviews 3 weeks in, 6 weeks in, 6 months in, if you turn off the sound and just watch it, you would have no clue they're talking about their missing kid at all.
Right.
You would think this is just like some interview, like random interview about like a business or something else, or not that.
I feel like they are like, and I hate to say it, well, I'm just going to say it, like the Sebastian Rogers case.
Right.
If that was an accident, why didn't you call 911?
Yeah.
Because there's CPS reports,
Mm-hmm.
5 of them, to be a matter of fact. So if it was an accident,
Yeah.
you're going to be in trouble because CPS has come to your house 5 times already.
Right.
You
And I
know,
heard that Chris wasn't supposed to be there that month either.
he was not supposed to be there. I mean, in my opinion, allegedly, uh, I don't know this for sure, but when I done my reading, there was somebody that wasn't supposed to be. And at the time, I didn't really know anything about Sebastian's case. And I was like, well, there's somebody there that's not supposed to be there. This is a father figure. And that was from the very beginning. I've always felt like he was kicked out of the house, like around the 1st of February, because they had a teacher parents conference. And I feel like after that, he was taken out of the scenario. He wasn't supposed to be there because of the CPS call. But I
Right.
see that. It seems like with Don Wells, it seems like, what if it was an accident? Why didn't you call? Because
Yeah.
we know why. So it's all kind of connected that way. And I feel like that the McCanns just kind of throw so much information in there. I don't know if they're throwing needless information in there so it'll distract you, or
Yeah.
they're just so nervous they're just throwing information in there that doesn't even need to be a part of the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
But
I think they're calculated. I think it's
yeah,
it's purposely done to confuse you. Again, like the shiny things. Like look for a
yeah,
kid with an eye, and then and the whole world's out there searching for a little kid with a spot on her eye. And yes, that's important, but it's not as important as looking for evidence where they were trying to, like, even when the police got there and they were trying to get to the apartment, that they told them to hurry up and get right back out. They were like, oh, go back out there. She's not in
yeah,
here. She's gone. You know what I mean? And it's like apparently like Kate was looking under cars. And that's another thing, kind of why I want to bring it up too, because my oldest son is autistic, as you know, like you're knowing. And the only reason I want to bring it between Madeline and Sebastian is because, like I said, my son is a wanderer. Like that's something I've always worried about. I had like a GPS thing for him that would track him at school and stuff because he would walk off, and
yeah,
things like that. And so it was like he was really young, and it was like the middle of the night, or no, it was the morning. I had woke up and I went to go check on him, and he wasn't in his bed. It was like we were in our first apartment by myself. It was just like a 2-bedroom apartment. It had a patio and the front door and stuff, but everything was locked.
mm-hmm.
And so I thought, okay, well, I get nervous right away. I'm like,
Oh,
okay, well, maybe he just went to the bathroom. No big deal. So I go in the bathroom. He's not in the bathroom. And so I'm like, okay, well, I go in the living room and he's not in the living room. So I go back to his bedroom, and then I look again and I'm like, maybe I just didn't look in the bed right.
right,
But
yeah,
I never looked under his bed, things like that, and he could have probably fit under his bed then. But the thing is, even though with the doors being locked, I still thought he wandered out. And
right,
my brain could not process that he could not have got out and the doors be locked, and it
right,
still never even came in my head that somebody stole him or somebody took
right,
him. It was
yeah,
just, oh my God, he fucking vanished. Like literally, he's
yeah,
just gone. You know what I mean? And then I'm running around the apartment screaming his name. I didn't even want to open the door and leave because the last place he was there. So I was like,
yeah,
I'm not leaving. You know what I mean? I'm going to stand here and scream until somebody comes to me. Like that was my thought process.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
I just kept running around. And finally, like I went back into my bedroom. I don't know what made me look on the side of my bed, but like I had, a king bed, but it was kind of close to the wall because where I had my bathroom at. And he
yeah.
was like curled up in a little ball on the side of my bed and on the floor,
Oh,
just sleeping. And I was like, oh my gosh. And like I just like fell to the floor. I probably went back to sleep. Like, who knows? You know what I mean?
yeah,
But like I
yeah,
guess that's my point though, with like, Sebastian and the whole Malin thing and things like that. There's stories of what they thought happened or how they happened or how their reactions to it is just so not in line with what most people's say their reaction was. Or like you watch Gannon Stotcher's mom and Natalie Holloway's mom
yeah,
and things like that, and
mhm,
their interviews are all similar, but you kind of watch theirs and like even Casey Anthony, people like that, it's very flighty, very patchy. It
mhm,
doesn't really make sense. You're kind of halfway into listening to one of their answers and you forget what they're even saying. It's like, what the hell did they just say?
yeah,
Like it doesn't really make sense. It's kind of not registering. So that's how
yeah,
like there's no emotional feel, there's no nothing. You're
mhm,
not getting anything from it. And that's what I thought was very different again about the video last night. And so the video last night, I noticed it seemed more like a mourning of
Yeah.
Madeline, not
It's
so much.
Sebastian. He wasn't a what they call him a, was it a loper? A loper? What did they say?
She called him some
Like he don't wander off. She said he
she
do
said
that.
something different.
Yeah, he's never done that.
Right. But then she says he did it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so no. But
right.
The other thing that bothered me about the McCanns was that they're trying to advocate for missing children that have been kidnapped.
Right.
And I'm like,
so they're playing that role, even though they know that didn't happen.
That disturbed me. I mean, I get it.
And the Pope.
Yeah. I mean, I get it.
I mean, they didn't stop there.
No. I mean, I get that we want people out there advocating for missing children, but that just
But not like Casey Anthony level people.
Yeah.
And they're kind of up there. Like they're up there with that level to me, because again, you don't know how long she was gone, and they keep people kind of discrediting the dogs and stuff, and just kind of not looking at the facts of it.
Yeah.
You have to look at these. They are literally bloodhounds. Like it's in their name. You know what I mean? They're. It's like, think about like if you teach a dog a trick to like give you like shake your paw. It's no different than teaching them to basically go find what they were born to do, go hunt out some blood smells and some, I mean, that's what they are. You take them hunting for a reason, and they're never wrong. So why in this situation are they wrong? Or why does anybody even want to think that they're wrong? Because again, they have nothing, no stake in any of this. These dogs, they just want to treat and want to be told good boy. Like, you know what I mean? The only people who have anything to hide and get away with is the parents.
Yeah, and that's their job. That's what they're trained to do, and they want to make you proud of them. So that's their main goal. But I don't understand why the authorities are, would you say allegedly that they're covering it up for a reason? Why do you think the authorities are covering it up?
Well, they said that Kate called the government, somebody, I have to look up the exact way it said, but that she called somebody or some part of the British government before she ever called the police.
Oh.
So that was also done, and that was proved. Yeah, that was a proof. And that's another thing with this Robert Murat. I kind of brought him in the beginning. Robert Murat had a really sketchy past in like stuff with animals and some weird stuff. And then like just some other stuff that, Gerry McCann and David Payne have also been accused of with the children kind of thing. So they also, is a rumor that, I don't know if it was Gerry or they couldn't really prove who did it, but they said that there was a phone call, they believe, from Gerry to Robert Murat around the day that the last photo was taken of Madeline, which was like April 29th, April 30th. There was a phone call, and then all of a sudden Murat ends up in Portugal within like 24 hours. And then a little bit after him getting there, he becomes volunteers become the interpreter. He does, and then he starts to be too friendly, and all of a sudden the McCanns start pointing the finger at him because of rumors about him. So with so the fact, exactly, a setup. And so with the proof that they have that Kate called the government before she called the police, and the proof that Gerry called Robert Murat and then he ended up there, all of that kind of goes together in a way. And just the people they know and how it's going, they've been given millions for this campaign to find Madeline. And I mean, it's still running. It's I mean, I did a video on that too. We'd have to almost like go back to like think of the actual like terms of what they all did, but I know it was Project Grange is basically what it was called. Project Grange. They set it up, and the prime ministers are the one that did it, and they thought it was very odd because the prime ministers took so much stake into this. So that's some other reason that they do feel like the government's covering it up for them.
And I think that it's getting more attention than they thought. She's getting way more attention than they thought. And their recordings are terrible, by the way. They do not know. They really don't know how to film a documentary, do they? I'm like, man, who did this?
They said that they let their friends do it. And I think they did that for a reason too. I think they did that because it made it easier for them to show some kind of emotion to people and like get the time to work that emotion up.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so they can like record when they feel like it, kind of thing, you know. But
And the friends that were there are not going to say anything. They're going to probably do just about anything to stay along the lines of the narrative.
well, especially if they were involved in it, the way
Yeah.
that if what people think, and that's the other thing, that people get upset about the speculation of things and stuff like that. This is a public case. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you can't have, these people are constantly putting themselves out there in the media too. The
Yep.
McCanns, like, and they still do it to now. So it's like, you can't say that they don't want the attention or they're not looking
Right.
for it. They clearly want it. They clearly enjoy it. They clearly like it.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, that is what it is. I do think it was an accident. I don't think they went looking for it, but I think once they realized the attention they could get, they went with it. And then maybe there's also this side of them that, again, because it was an accident, maybe they do feel guilty, and maybe they are taking this platform, and that's their karmic way of trying to make some type of retribution for what they did.
Yeah.
I
But
mean, because
still,
that's all they can do. But yeah, but the only one that I could see that you could do that is to eventually tell the truth. Because if they
yeah,
would have told the truth in the beginning, they probably would be out of jail already,
they
to be
probably would.
honest.
They
They would
probably
be out
wouldn't
of
have even.
jail. They
They
would, that's
probably
what I
would.
told Chris. They probably would have
Yeah.
cut a deal with them if they would have even put them
Yeah.
in there for that long. And all they would have, again, admitted to giving her medicine, maybe too much, and they didn't, tend to her in a timely manner. That's all
Yeah.
that they would have had to admit to. And people would have respected them a lot more. And now there wouldn't be all this speculation going around about their personal lives.
Right.
So that's
Because
the other thing about that.
I don't know how they, how their country is on child, like that's a form of child abuse,
Right. Right.
So I don't know how that country is, how strict they are versus like, we have CPS and
Yeah.
all kinds
Yeah.
of, I mean, they may not have even, to them, that might have just not been a big thing.
Yeah, because giving the kids more medicine they need, that's child abuse. So you would be charged for that alone. Just as if a child were to pass away in your care and you were under the influence, you would get
Right.
charged. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like, again, I don't understand why people are like, oh, leave them alone about it. It's like, no, they were the last. They're the guardians. They're with them. They're supposed to be with them at all times. If something happens, they're responsible. And then if something did happen, again, they hit it. So that's, I mean, all these things are child neglect, child endangerment,
Mhm.
child abuse, improper disposal of a human body, tampering with the
Yep.
human body,
Yep.
and more.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's at least 5 charges alone. And
yeah.
that's only what we know of.
Right.
So again, they could have given him a deal if they would have just told the truth. And then you could sympathize with them the way they're wanting and saying, damn, I turned my back too long one time and I went, and the same thing could have happened to me. I do feel bad, because that's what they want. And if
Right.
you would have told the truth, maybe that's what you would have got.
Mm-hmm.
Not about the drugging thing. Again, we don't even know what they gave. If they even, we don't know that part. We don't know if she just fell and hit her head, or if she was drugged and fell and hit her head. But
Yeah.
either way, the fact that they left her alone is what caused the death too.
Right.
If it
Because they
wasn't,
might could have saved her had she fell and they'd been in there.
right. Yeah, because who knows how long? Because even if they were leaving her, it wasn't every 30 minutes that they were coming back and checking on each other. So,
No.
but yeah, let me see something else about.
No, with her 50 yards, she would have had to walk or whatever she said. That was probably 10 minutes in itself. So if you're 10 minutes there and 10 minutes back, you're telling me in 10 more, 15 more minutes, you're going to turn around and go back? No,
Right.
because it would have took half of that to get there and back, I would think, walking.
Yeah.
If you said you were going back every 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well, this lady said she walked it, a reporter, and she's like, you would have to power walk to be there within like a few minutes. And she's like, and even at that, it's still 2 to 3 minutes. And that's still not fast enough.
Yeah.
It's not, like it's really not there to be fast enough. But again, if you're not doing anything wrong and something were to happen, it's not at your own fault. But like, we were both saying, you'd still feel like it's your fault though, because you weren't close enough. And if they don't seem to give off that vibe in any of the early on interviews, it's not until the years after that they've had time to kind of work out their story, maybe figure out what triggers their emotions so that it can go along with the story. But yeah, I just think what it boils down to with them, I do think that they miss her. I do think they regret what happened, how it happened, whatever they gave her, if they did give her something. And for that, I do kind of feel sorry for them. I would never want to lose my child in any horrible way. But you contributed to that if that's what they did. So that, again, even if you can feel bad for somebody and still think they're wrong and that they deserve to do time and deserve their punishment, you know? And like I said, and again, by saying I feel bad for them is not like, oh, I feel bad for them, nothing should happen to them. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, I feel bad you had such a bad lapse of judgment that now your child's gone. You look like a bunch of fools, you know?
Being selfish.
And then you're out there and like, look at, like you said, everything that they're doing, campaigning for missing children, meeting the Pope, like doing all this stuff to where when and if it ever comes out that they've done this and had anything to do with it, like, you're gonna look so much. I don't even know if you could look worse, but I feel like you can always get worse. Like, you know,
of all the people you fooled all of these years, or you know, have believed you all of these years, that would be, you know, public scrutiny plus all of those people.
Do you feel that they might ever be charged, either one of them? And if so, do you think one would be charged before the other? Because they did find blood on Kate's clothes and things like that. They never found it on Gerry's. Sadly,
I don't think they'll ever be charged.
No. I don't know. Sometimes I see Kate in like an orange jumpsuit, and I'm like, I don't even know if they have orange jumpsuits, but it looks great.
You're thinking, do I want to see her in there so bad that I'm just seeing it?
Yeah,
you know?
Because I mean, like, I get like all happy about it. I'm like, yeah, that's the way it should be, like, you know, because it should. You know what I mean? Like, if again, like, I mean, and if they didn't do it, then I'll be happy to eat my words. I'm wrong. And great, you know.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I'll take down every video. I'll apologize for everything that I said, but I don't think I'm wrong, and I don't think the whole world is pretty much wrong. You know what I mean? And I think the only people who sympathize with them are people who do what things that they do, and that put themselves in those situations all the time, and they don't want to ever have anything happen to them, so they're kind of blowing the horn for them. You know what I mean? And I think that's what that boils down to.
It's almost like they feel like they just had a bad luck. Like, this is just our luck.
Right. You know, and that's where you say, well, it could have happened to you. Because that was Gerry a lot in the beginning. Well, you know, it was an accident. And, you know, it could happen to anyone. It could have happened to you. And it's like, well, yeah, you know, but that's not the point. How did it happen? And how did you handle it? And that's the thing. You know, you did everything wrong in this situation. So why do you get to point the finger at everybody else, say, you're so horrible for saying I'm horrible for not doing the right thing?
My reaction to him would have been, no, that wouldn't have happened to me for one reason. I would have never left my 3-year-old by herself in the middle of the night to go eat dinner. So
with two babies.
Yeah. Maybe something else might have happened if I turned my head. Maybe that might have happened in another incident, but not in that one. Because I'm not going to leave my child and go eat dinner because I'm selfish. I'm not going to do that. So, and I feel like if they do get caught, somebody's going to have to say something, or they're going to have to find something. And
I feel like it would be a domino effect.
Yeah. They've hit her so well that, I mean, somebody has to know besides them where she's at. I don't think just them two know, but I think I feel like somebody would definitely have to speak up before they could start even moving in that direction. And they've gotten comfortable with getting away with it.
Yeah.
So to speak, in so many words.
Yeah, and I think that's where some of these analysis of like channels are coming out and things like that, and people are wanting to speak out about it more, especially because of everything that's happened recently, like within here alone. You know, like look what happened within the government and everything that's been happening, and like this, like what was just going on in the schools and the systems, and how things were completely falling to pieces here. And it's because everything was being censored, everything's being edited, everybody's sensitive. You can't say certain things without everybody being offended. And so I guess I'm trying to say, like everything's offensive these days. Like you can't even say a word that is something and what it means, because someone gets upset. But the problem is when you do that, like me and you've spoke before, you take away the importance of the word and why it's not acceptable. So eventually you don't use this word properly, or you're not allowed to use it at all for years. So what eventually happens then everybody starts acting this way. So then you have a bunch of people just breaking laws, acting crazy and doing crazy things, and eventually it's just going to be complete chaos. Nobody's going to be safe. Nobody's going to be okay if everybody keeps turning a blind eye to things that they know is wrong. And that's what I guess this is about, in a way of doing the analysis. It's not to like burn somebody on the stake and shit like that. It's nothing to do with that. It's like people have been turning a blind eye to everything that's been happening for so long. Nobody wants to turn a blind eye anymore. It's starting to piss people off, is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
They sit there with that smug look on their face with the Pope asking to do this and do that, and then saying that, it's like, it's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. So, and someone else says it, as much as, and I'm not holier than thou. I've fucked up a lot of things, but if someone does something wrong, then they've done something wrong. If it gives them a name, or, if that makes them a pedophile, guess what? It makes them a pedophile.
Right.
So maybe they should be called that. You know what I mean? Or if they're...
What made them go to the Pope?
I don't remember what the event was, if they had went to the event or he happened to be where they were, and they asked him to bless the picture of her, which that's nothing against Mylon, but it was the nerve to do it in the context of what they said happened.
Right.
It's false context, and so that's what it is. And again, it's like a lot of the, creators I've been watching who do have the platforms, who are speaking out about the political stuff, who are speaking out against the crimes like this that are happening, that really aren't being taken care of. It is more about now, like, people don't want to turn a blind eye to things. And because it's also, by doing that, you're also like belittling my intelligence and expecting me to pretend that I'm stupid, or that I can't say anything because it's offensive to you, or it's challenging to you. But yet that's what you're doing to me.
Right.
So, gaslighting. And that's what I'm saying. So for me, it is more about, like, I'm tired of things being ignored because nobody wants to use the word, or nobody wants to speak up and say, well, that's not really right. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's a lot more about this now. People are done with pretending like they don't see something, wearing the rose-colored glasses, and that they don't see it. It's enough, and then you have to think about, what are you leaving behind for your children? What kind of life are they going to have? Is this a world? I know this isn't a world I feel safe leaving them in at this point, until it gets more balanced. I mean, now that, President Trump's in office, things seem to be balancing out more, and I'm grateful for that. But like I said, for the most part, I hope that the way things have gone in the last 4 to 8 years or whatever, I don't ever want to see this shit again, ever. You know what I mean? And I hope we never go backwards. I hope this never happens again. And I hope that our children have, a nice, life to build for themselves, and they don't have to deal with this stuff. And people, again, need to start speaking up when they see something wrong, especially this wrong. This is just blatantly wrong. There's so many facts built behind it that I don't see how you can even tell somebody that they're wrong for having a different opinion than yours, when
and if you're wrong and you're a millionaire, you shouldn't get to walk away because of who you are and how much money you got
and who
you're affiliated with, because if you're wrong is wrong, whether you've got $1 billion or whether you've got $5, wrong is wrong. That's what aggravates me.
And it is about their connections, where they're from. I mean, they have like a Hollywood kind of base there, but it's not like they're just royalty. You know what I mean? So they are their Hollywood, pretty much. That is their status there, to my knowledge, pretty much. If you look it up, they're more of the upper elite there. So I mean, they have David Beckham up there advocating for them, so that's pretty high up there, support.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that, I think, it's because of who they're connected with. And I don't think because you have money, or because of what job title you have, you should be able to get away with these things. And that's what it is. The most common of person would not have been able to get away with this. And that's what the people in Portugal were saying. Their kids had been taken there. They didn't get any news, any support, anything. But she comes over there, and she's still, all these years later, getting millions of dollars and
all kinds of attention.
Over there too still. So I don't know, just very, very odd situation. it just doesn't feel like a missing kid parent situation. It feels
No.
like, whoops, we messed up. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
about it. So
Yeah. Yeah. They're disassociating themselves from it, but then making up all kinds of excuses and trying to turn it around. Well, this could happen to anybody. Well, to some extent, yeah, it could. But
right.
some people are not going to leave their babies
No.
like that. I mean,
I don't even like leaving my son in like the house if I go into the garage for too long. Like
Yeah.
if I go in the garage to Kristen and we talk and stuff, like I'll like every 5 minutes or something open the door. Or like if I think I hear something, I open the door. I mean, and it's connected to the house. It's like he'll be sitting at the table right there. I mean, he's 6 years old, 7 years old probably,
Yeah.
And I still
Yeah.
sit there and but yeah, I agree, and that's what I was saying about relating or trying to relate to someone doesn't make you bad or good or light or dark or like inferior or superior, any of those things. It's like, it kind of just makes you human, but it's at the same time, like you have to kind of detach like what was right and what was wrong and say, okay, well, I can feel bad for the fact that they made a really stupid decision in the moment, but what I can't respect and back up is what they did and before or after. So
Yeah.
I don't feel bad for you for what happens for that. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that,
That's like Monkey Vaughn,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Vaughn. His mama is devastated still. And when she does interviews, you can tell she is the mother of a missing child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She is advocating to find her son. She's working hard. I mean, she does all of the things that a mom of a missing child would do. And then you go look at the Wells and you go look at
Casey Anthony,
and the PFs, and you go look at
Megan
all of these.
Boswell.
Yeah, do they look like they're advocating to
No,
find
they're
their
all out
child?
partying.
Yeah,
They're all out partying, or they're hiding, or they're just sitting there. I don't know. That's pretty much it. They're out partying or they're hiding. Like,
they
it just
all have
depends on
that same.
what like status you have in their life.
Yeah, from Chris Watts, he said, "There's absolutely no evidence. They have no clues." What Don Wells say? There's absolutely no evidence. They have no
Right.
clues, no suspects. What did P. Foot say? Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, they all say the same thing. There's no
And they all
evidence.
and another guy made up a good point. They jump past the part of finding them. They always go, let's bring them home. And that's true.
Right.
Natalie Holloway's
Right.
mom, I want to find her. For years, Natalie Holloway's mom, I want to find her. I
Yeah.
want to find her. Never
Yeah.
was it like, of course I want to find her and bring her home, but it was always, I want to find her. I need to find, because you have to find her first.
Right.
So you're jumping a whole step. So
Yeah.
that's why they're saying with they're bringing them home. When they say that, they know they're not coming, they're not going to find them alive. You're just bringing them back home. So that's basically why they say it that way. And it was actually in that Heidi Bouchard video too, when that Shane, nothing ever charges came against him for nothing, but he says the same thing in the interview. He said there was the mom and the baby was missing, and then he's like, well, bring her back and just drop her off somewhere. He never said them. And I will still say that now.
Right.
Nothing's ever been, so again, this is my opinion. It's alleged. He said her. How would he have known when her body hadn't been found yet? There was only one of them.
Right.
Nobody ever brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still one that I think you never heard about that case after that either. You heard she got arrested and you can't really find much after that.
Right.
So I just think it's very odd that some of the things, it's like some cases they get charged and you're like, wow, I'm surprised they nailed them with that. And other ones, it's like they get off, like Casey Anthony's like, how the hell did you get off with that? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to you. And that's when you really start to say, yeah, it's not a fair system at certain, more than it is at certain times.
And she can't be tried again.
No. And
That's
they jumped too quickly to charge her was the issue.
Yeah.
They were so just wanting to pin her. Like I said, again, they didn't do little charges that they could have. They didn't explain, or the jury didn't ask enough. Probably, they're a bunch of idiots too, I feel like, because they're like, well, we didn't, they didn't prove exactly how they didn't have to tell you exactly how she did it. They just had to give you enough evidence to put it together. Like I watched a case one time and they didn't have a body and he was found guilty and they put him to jail just based off of the tracking of the phone, a couple of store receipts, and that was it. And tire marks and drag marks. Or it wasn't even tire marks. It was drag marks. and the driveway gravel of her feet. And that was it. And that's enough. It is enough.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, in certain situations it is.
Right.
So,
Yep.
and I just feel like this is one of those situations where it's like there's too much pointing to that they did do it versus that they didn't. And again, you can feel bad that they lost their child, but you don't have to feel like that doesn't mean I have to feel bad that they were going to jail for it.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because nobody would want to lose a child. So of course you wouldn't wish that upon anybody, but that doesn't mean they don't deserve what they get.
Hopefully this makes them treat the other two differently.
Well, I did watch something, and obviously we watched readings and stuff, and I was watching one, and they, kind of like we were talking about with Summer Wells, the other two children got taken from them, so they're protected now. They don't have to be at the home with what's the mother? I don't even know the mother, Candace, and Dawn anymore. But and that was kind of like Madeline's message at the end, that she wanted people to, not forget her, but let it kind of, she's gone. And to kind of move on, and that what she got most out of, she was able to help her brother and sister not go through what she went through.
Right.
And it brought attention to them and put them under the spotlight and put eyes on them. And that's true. It did. So
it does,
whatever they were possibly thinking of doing with the other two children, if they were going to do anything like they were possibly, allegedly doing in the other way, then this did out them.
Yeah.
So
and they're friends.
Right, and they're friends. So in a way, it already shut down a small part of that.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a little, at least it's something. At least it's, I mean, look how many millions of people know, and again, like I heard about it a long time ago. I just assumed most people thought they were guilty. I was like 20, I think, when it happened, and I was pregnant with my son, so I didn't want to watch it too much. Stuff like that upsets you when you're pregnant, and so I just didn't want to watch it too much. But, yeah, I didn't watch it when I was younger, but as I've watched it now, it's so obvious. And that's what makes you wonder why so long, things have gone on and nothing's happened.
Yeah, I like Summer, saved her brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
So I will always think, and they'll never go back to Dawn. And
no. And like they said, I don't know if you heard right before I brought you from backstage, from the other part of the interview, but he was getting into, he has done one Summer Wells video, I think. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at his channel yet or not, but his channel is in the description whenever you get a chance. But he does talk about that. He says that about, them being taken away from them, and that she wouldn't have any chance of getting them back because she's dirty, like drug wise, right. which everybody knew that they were, drug addicts or whatever. So he doesn't, nobody thinks that they're going to be able to get clean to get back the boys. And that's good, So again, in that situation too, luckily the boys got taken away from Dawn and Candace.
And I don't think the boys want, the last I had heard was that they're very happy where they're at. Yeah. And they don't want to go back.
No, and they're getting older, and that's good because they can advocate for themselves and say, I don't like it there. I don't feel comfortable there. I don't want to go, and that's good. They seem like they're smart, intelligent, sweet boys. So the longer they're away, the better every day, for them. And kind of like the Proudfoots and stuff, like they were talking about, he also mentions, again, I haven't really watched anything on the Benet case or Proudfoot as far as interviews. These are all things I'm just starting to get into, but what I have seen from some of the interviews, they said how Katie said, she heard a thud or something, and that's that night, and that's the last she heard of Sebastian, like told him to get back into bed, and then she said she got up the next morning and he was gone. I think the thud had something to do with what passed when he passed, to be honest.
Right.
If there was a thud, I do. They bring up medicine too. I haven't watched any interviews where they speak about medicine or giving him night medicine. But I mean, if Chris wasn't there and he wanted to talk to her and all this stuff was going on, I could see her giving him too much medicine to make him sleep so he doesn't get upset. Chris on the phone, you know what I mean? Because they did say that he would be loud in the background a lot, and then I guess, which is good, nobody needs to hear him talking anyways. But Yeah, so it's just kind of that thing. Like, it makes you wonder, did she give him too much just so Chris wouldn't be like, oh, what's he, he's always interrupting us, kind of thing. And then it
Yeah.
just, oh crap, like she goes up there because she hears a thud and then she sees him. I
Yeah.
kind of feel like that's how that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I mean, just because she mentions it, and then they say how she says, well, I'll bulldoze him over with kisses if I see him. I didn't know there was a construction site by.
Say again.
There was a construction site like within, like kind of close to their house, to my knowledge.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Yeah, but she uses construction site terms a
She
lot.
does. Yeah.
So it makes you wonder. It makes you
Because
wonder. Because they usually will use words that referenced what could have happened in some way, or like they had made, like, what was it? Oh, like they said, like somebody had one time during an interview when they had like burned the body or burned evidence, and I don't remember what case it was, but just for an example, this person said that they disappeared into thin air. Well, the person ended up being burnt or something like that. So it's fire, it would smoke, it goes up into air. And then another one, something somehow kind of mentioned the float or something like that, but the person ended up being in the water. So it makes you wonder with that, and then they're literally talking about, again, different terms of this construction site. So it makes me wonder.
Chris is a crane operator.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and then they said like concrete was being laid and things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It does make you wonder though, why she referenced to those kind of terms though so much.
Yeah,
Like, who says bulldozes their kid over? It did, and it made your stomach turn. It wasn't like people go, oh, how could that make? I don't know. It was something about the way she said it when she said it. It bulldozed him over. Like, it was like, and I didn't even know about the construction site thing then. It was just the way she said it, and the look. It was almost like she was like grinning, like she knew what she was talking. Like, she knew what happened. She knew it had something to do with the bulldozer, and you didn't. So again, that duping delight crap, is what was going on. Kind of there, like Chris Watts and all his, like, he couldn't stop grinning. Jeez. Like,
he said this is a case to be studied for years. Really? Why would you say that when he's been missing, like, at this point he'd been missing like 8 or 9 days, and he says that?
Yeah. Because they think they pulled off something great. Like, even Chris Watts, I just don't know what happened. They just completely disappeared, and for them saying like he didn't show a lot of emotion and they were surprised. Damn, Chris Watts was nervous the whole time. Like, he's he's pacing in Nate's house. I mean, and he's going upstairs and running in and out of the rooms like a chicken with his head cut off, and then he's out there grinning and acting all goofy and stuff during the interviews. And I'm like, for someone who's like not emotional at all, they say. Like, he's showing a lot of erratic emotion that's not really making sense right now.
Dude, what's wrong with you? What are you on? Are you on something? Are you just,
slip yourself an oxy? Like, what's going on over there? Like, like, I don't know. But like, and then like, I miss not telling him you can't have your dessert. Like,
really?
What? Yeah, because I love to tell my kids, you can't have that.
Yeah. It's the stuff so odd that they say.
They're so unself-aware and can't read the room. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. Those are the worst people, who like can't read the room for the most part, or like take a hit of like, like, you're maybe going a little too far, or that's not really fit in the moment. You might want to switch to a different gear there. But yeah, like Chris Watts was like, I don't know, all kinds of different emotion in less than like 5 seconds. Like, yeah, for someone who didn't ever show it.
But he looked crazy-eyed to me. I was like, what is wrong with him?
His eyes were real dark. Like, that first day that he did the interview on the porch in that shirt, his eyes were pretty dark still. I mean, he's still probably on a high.
Yeah.
From doing it. Because I do think he strangled her. Or
I do. I do. Yeah.
I do think, the girl, I don't know. I think there's other stuff that goes into that case, but I do think I could see him wanting to, and we talked about that too, before, people saying because of the way she spoke to him, he felt that's why he did it. And most people, when people are strangled to death, that is usually why. Like, and I joked about it all the time. I was like, if anybody killed me, they probably strangle me. I was like, because I talk a lot, you know what I mean? So, and that's, usually, so it felt personal to me that way. So that's why I feel like he probably did it. Yeah, strangling is very personal, and it's usually because you want them to shut up.
Yeah.
And it is.
You're close up. You're like right there.
Yeah, and you're telling them, like, shut the up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so, and that's what I'm saying. So for him, I feel like, yeah, that's I can see him doing that. With the girls, I just don't feel like he had the balls.
Yeah.
You know, to do that. So I don't know. That's a whole different situation. And that,
I mean,
that's
where
another
he
thing.
needs to be. He's where he needs to be for sure, but I feel like somebody else needs to be there with him.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was about. You know, I've noticed a lot of a new analysis that are coming up on them, and it's mainly her. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're pulling up, like, you know, past records, things like that. And even Plunder did a few. So, like, recently.
Plunder has a new one out.
Yeah. And then there's another channel. It's Crime Catalyst. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Her channel's not very big, but it's really good. I mean, it's not a small channel. It's 10,000. So it's a big channel. I don't mean that. But I mean, it should be bigger. You know, like, it should be like at least, I mean, she's got great videos. She's very detailed. And I mean, and she brings up all the receipts. I mean, like, you see everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's when she touches on, you know, the crystals and the things like that Nicole got into, and how, you know, Chris and her were texting about that one that he wanted to buy her, and like what she was doing when they went on certain trips, the things she would say, things like that. And you know, of course, obviously that's not what ruled the whole case, but it did in a way, because she did believe in that. She was wasn't she like a geologist? Isn't that exactly what she is? A geologist? So that's literally what she looks at is crystals. That's her job. So to say, oh, that's stupid, try to bring that's literally what she chose to do for her job, because she's into it. So more than likely, yes, she probably does practice. And she said she was a practicing Wiccan or pagan, and that's the things they believe in. So in all the places she goes. So it's not that far-fetched to say that she did some type of rituals on him or with him at certain times.
Right.
She was already doing things like that. Do I think that they had the whole impact and made the thing happen the way they did? No, I don't. But it's still an interesting bit of information that's not it's fun to talk about, in the sense of like, well, listen to this. They had this crystal and they were trying to do that, you know, and it's crazy how they thought it was going to do all that, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like all the windstorms and stuff that happened, like how, because that's what Crime Catalyst talks about in it. You know, like when Shanann was coming back from, I don't know, was it Arizona that night? I think it was Arizona was where she was at.
I think it was Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had like a bunch of windstorms that stopped the plane, and then all the hail, and she like brings up how it connects through the workings and things. So that's why I said she dug deep into that one. So that's why I said Crime Catalyst is a really good one to look into for that one. She does a lot of good videos, and they're not too long. And even the ones that are longer, like, they go by so quick because they're so good.
Chris, I'm sure Chris Watts has a boyfriend in jail. I'm sure he does. You know, he had underwear and other things found in his.
I thought he wasn't allowed to like go out like but an hour a day. Like, how do they find time to do any of that 1 hour? I mean, aren't they by themselves? Or does he not do that anymore?
He got in trouble for that.
For what?
Having
that
underwear. They found somebody's underwear.
How do they know they're not their underwear? Don't they all wear the same kind of underwear?
I don't know. But they must be marked with their name on it.
It wasn't that Chris's underwear. It was a different Chris's underwear. Where did you see that at? I didn't see that. I need to go watch it.
About his underwear?
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
It was that and something else they found in his cell. Gosh, I don't even know who. Plunder may have it on her channel.
Plunder? Okay.
He may have it on hers, but he got in trouble for like 30 days.
And that was recent?
No, that's when not too long after he went in.
So weird.
It is weird. So he, like, what did they do? They're like, they can't go to the commissary for 30 days or some kind of crap.
Well, look, even how, like, the books, too. Like, he had one book. It was all like, oh, you know, he felt so bad for everything, and Shanann was great. And the other author, that Kim something, and that's Crime Catalyst compares the two, Cadel and this Kim something. But, like, he's playing both these chicks. And it's like, holy shit, dude, like, you already been caught killing your family and you're in jail and you're still trying to like run game on everybody outside with two different books. Like, how did that work? Like, how did you think that was really going to work out in the end, and why'd you do that? You know what I mean? Because that was really weird. That was weird to me. Like, why would you give two different women two different versions of the story and let them both print it. Again, just to confuse you.
Yeah.
Again, shiny things, people are stupid. You know what I mean? Anybody's going to believe whatever you say, you know, and that's what these like narcissistic psychopaths, whatever they are, do.
And he's probably sitting back there laughing. They both think they got the truth out of me, and now they're going to both print something different.
Yeah.
And people still aren't going to know what happened.
Right. And that's my point. He's sitting back laughing while everybody's like, well, what the hell? You know what I mean? Yeah. So which one's the truth? You know, it's still like an okie doke, like, haha, I went over on y'all again. You know, so it's kind of like that shows you his real personality and his thinking. Yeah. He's not he's smarter than anybody ever gave him credit for. And Crime Catalyst talks about that too. And she talks about his family being like that. They play dumb so that they don't get questioned. Right. And I've realized that as I've gotten older too. I've told Chris that a lot. I was like, man, I wish I was just like stupid sometimes, like just straight stupid, you know, like no common sense, no anything, you know, like his life would be a lot easier, I feel like. But then I'm like, you know, I don't know. I really wouldn't want to be stupid.
Yeah, just looking at everybody like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you know, but it's like nobody expects anything from them. You know, everybody's like, oh, okay, just go sit down before you hurt yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, or you hurt somebody else.
You're gonna hurt yourself thinking too much. Just go
it's like down. I just want someone to go tell me to sit down. Just go sit down. I'll take care of it because I'm like, wait, not like that. You missed this spot. Just give it to me.
Just go over there because you know you might get hurt. Just walk over there and sit down.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, so we're going to get into, so we only watched half of the analysis. So the rest of the analysis, they go into John Ramsey and Chris Proudfoot. And then they do have one on the wells. And if you'd like to join us again, I can bring you back for those. And then we can kind of talk about them when they're done. Because I think is there anything else on the video last night that you noticed that we didn't talk about, or anything in the analysis that you noticed that we didn't talk about that you want to bring up before we hop off?
No, I think what really bothered me, one of the things that really bothered me was, like I said, they just sounded like they disassociated themselves, you know, 1 minute and then the next minute they were like feeling sorry for her, you know, they missed her. Because I think they do miss her. I don't think that they're those kind of people but I do think that they kind of flip-flop.
Right. And I agree. I do think they miss her, and I do think they regret what happened. So I do give them that. And I do think that's genuine mourning and remorse and wanting their child back. But then they flip back, like you said. It's like you're in it and you're feeling it with them, and then all of a sudden you're ripped out of it. And that's how you know something ain't right here. You know what I mean? It's like, again, it's watching Casey Anthony, or it's watching Letitia Stotch, or it's watching Dawn and Candace, or it's, you know, watching all these people who you know have done a certain thing. And you're like, okay, it gives me that feeling. And that's why I say, if you watch the beginning interviews that I have, you know, the first 3 videos they posted, or in the last maybe couple ones, there, if you listen to them, you can see there's no emotion. But if you turn off this sound, you can definitely feel this ain't right.
Yeah.
I don't feel anything looking at this. But if you turn off the sound to, you know, Natalie Holloway's mom looking, or Gannon Stotch's mom looking, or, you know, I can't think of anybody, but you get what I'm saying. People who actually have lost their children, that have been kidnapped or went missing, and then they find them and they're not still, you know, it's quite night and day. It's like you cry with them, you feel like Shanann's mom, you know, you feel it when you listen to their speeches. You can cry with them, you get the chills, you get all those feelings. You don't get that with the McCanns.
No. And the other thing,
feeling like you're trying to get over on me and you're belittling my intelligence, and I don't appreciate that shit. That's what it feels like.
And it's like, too, with the McCanns, like, for me, like, when they're advocating, you know, they're doing all this for missing children. You know, they talk about, how parents feel with missing children. And we, you know, we don't want our children missing. And they go into this long thing about how she's been abducted and they want this to happen to anybody else. For me, that's like somebody going out and searching for their child when they know where they're at.
Yeah.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing. And that's when, you know, that 3 weeks, the first interview that I did with the red flags or whatever that I posted a couple weeks back, that's what Gerry says in the interview. And that's 3 weeks after she went missing. I mean, they, you know, and they're like, well, you know, with everything that's happened, you know, there's so much good that's come out of it too. You are 3 weeks into your child missing. What good has came out of any of this? What are you talking about? That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Like, and then they ask them, and Kate says in that interview, she admits to them not looking and that everybody else is looking, but they haven't physically looked, but they've done other things. What do you mean other things? Like,
Right.
like I said, I could see not wanting to leave that place in the moment and maybe for the first 24 hours because this is the last place you see them and this is where I don't want to leave this spot because that's how I felt in the first 4 minutes that I couldn't find Andrew in the apartment that day. And then I found him asleep over there and it was like, it was just done. But it's like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's kind of like, I don't get how you cannot go out physically look. And then when she was physically looking, she's like, oh, I looked in a cupboard. I looked under a car. I looked under a bed, even though there's only like 2 inches under the bed. So what do you mean? Yeah, that's crazy to me. Like my son had more space under the bed and I never even looked on the side of my bed. I just kept running around to the obvious places like, oh my God, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? The doors are locked. Oh my God, but he still got out. He wandered out. Even with the doors being locked, my brain went to the first thing he would have possibly done, which was wander. And that's why Katie Proudfoot, like you're saying, I don't agree with it. Again, because she's bringing the autism into it, and he wasn't a wanderer. Like my son is a wanderer. So why would you think that he wandered off? And that's the first thing when he's this old. My son is 17 now, almost 18. He'll be graduating in May, and if I were to wake up and he was not there, the first thing I would think of is he wandered off. Still to this day. You know what I mean? And I still have GPS tracker on his phone. I don't put the Angel Sense GPS tracker on anymore because he keeps his phone charged. But he knows he has to keep that phone charged. He has to keep it on. You're not allowed to ever leave it anywheres. You know? And then if he ever does, he will get GPS tracker put back on him. And that's just how I feel about it. You know, because even when he was younger, he would rip it off of his clothes. So that's what I'm saying. And that's what it kind of irritates me about Katie too. It is a true fear of people who have kids who wonder. This is like, I would have nightmares. I still have nightmares, just, and you know, every now and then, not as much. But when he first, like when his dad and I first separated, and I would have to let him go with him, and I didn't know the apartment or the area or anything. I would stay up all night, sometimes all weekends, almost just like, and I'm sure like I probably slept like an hour each night, something like that in between. But I would be in complete fear and tears, calling first thing in the morning, as early as I could call, late as night as I could call, to make sure he was in the house with the door locked in his bed. And I, even if it was late and it was 12, I'd still text him like, I'm sorry, I just have a bad feeling. Is Andrew okay? Is he in his bed? You know what I mean? So this went on for years. So for her to all of a sudden just make up some excuse that, well, he must have wondered, and you know, poor me, I'm an autistic, I have an autistic kid and they feel sorry for me. No, I don't actually. I don't feel sorry for you at all. So I think you're using things that happen with autistic children to make excuses for something that you've done wrong. And I don't feel sorry for you. And I feel sorry for Sebastian that he had a mother like you, but that's about it. Because you look at that Roadhouse video too. In that Roadhouse video, it makes me cry. I don't know why. It makes me cry. The poor kid is just looking at her up. I mean, like he's just enjoying it. And that's another thing that bothers me is when I see people eat and I know something is getting ready to happen to them. I don't know why that bothers me, because it shows this human side of them. And he's sitting there just enjoying his food. And you could probably had his favorite, you know, whatever it was that he liked. My son loves salmon. I'm pretty sure that's what he said he had. And so I'm watching this video and every now and again he's looking up and he looks just like my son too. You know, so all I see is this poor little kid just looking at his mom for attention. And she won't even put the damn phone down for a minute to give him what he's looking for. And then within 24 hours, he's never going to be able to get that attention again. And that breaks my heart.
In that video.
Yeah, she was very irritated with him in that video. And you can, and most people can say, how do you, just because he keeps looking at her like, are you still mad at me? Like, that's exactly what I see. Like, can I talk now? Like, are you mad at me? Like, I'm sorry. Like, you know what I mean? And that breaks my heart. And the only way right now I can not cry about it is to get pissed about it. Because it's like, how dare you make him feel that way that whole time sitting at that fucking, especially for a man. This was all for a man. Plus that poor little boy's heart that he got stuck with you. You should have let him go back with his dad and left him alone. That's what
for a man that was going to divorce you at that.
Yeah. Some guy who has never said anything nice about this kid, you know, and you listen to the stuff he has said about him, and how dare you say things like that about that poor boy? You know, embarrass him about the bathroom and things like that with your big old nasty ass. You know what I mean? Like, how dare you say those things about him? He's a handsome little boy. And he was. He shouldn't wasted life around you. A
Okay,
horrible person.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's really frustrating, and we'll get into that more. But I have a hard time with Sebastian, so I'm taking my time with that.
Yeah, of
Just
course.
because of
Yeah.
the autism aspects of it and the fact that they're trying to play off of that. And I think that was another thing Katie thought. I think Katie thought if she said he wandered, then nobody would look again, because I've done at least 3 cases on my channel of kids who have wandered off, who have never been found, who are autistic. It's common. It's
Yeah.
one of the most common things, especially at that age, 16,
Yep.
17, 18. So that's why they use
Mhm.
that excuse. But she, like you said, she messed up by saying he never did it in the past. That
Mhm.
was her first mistake. But again, you know,
Yep.
I think she thought nobody was going to pay attention. Kind of like you said about the McCanns in the beginning. Nobody was
Yep.
going to pay attention. It was going to fly under the radar like all the other autistic kids who just wandered off, because that's what they do. And they
Yeah.
usually find them drowned, or they never find them at all, you know, because they
Right.
like to swim and they go into water. So that's why most
Yeah.
of them are found drowned. So, but yeah, that's what I think she thought. She thought, I'm going to say this because that's what happens the most. And eventually people will stop looking and nobody will question us. And
Yep.
I do think she is the one that plans it. And I think that's, you know, why Chris, when he does jump in, he's kind of random and he gets upset. And then he starts kind of putting his foot in his mouth, like literally
Yeah.
Proudfoot puts his foot in his mouth, because
Yeah.
he's not a quick thinker on his feet, you know.
No. Yeah.
But then, you know, so that's where you can kind of tell that where one picks up for the other. And the same thing with the McCanns. You can almost see in that interview on the couch in the video yesterday, where toward the end of the video, where they're both trying to like almost one up the other's lie. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, well, oh shit, you lied about. Well, hold on, I'm gonna throw this in there, because like when he says something
Mhm.
about the millennium, he's like, well, yeah, remember we weren't even gonna
Yep.
go the millennium, and she's like, yeah, and then he starts saying, and you could tell he's getting stuck, and then all of a sudden she jumps in and she's like, well, yeah, you know, because we didn't have a buggy and da 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 da, and then you can see him like starting to get nervous and dry swallowing while the camera's looking at him, and then you hear the reporter going, uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like they should have their PR and the person in the back be like, cut, cut.
Yeah.
This is really
Yeah.
bad, y'all. Like, don't put
Yeah.
this in. This is so
Yeah.
bad.
Flip
I
it
don't know
out.
who was like, this was a great one, you know.
Yeah.
And then they even put, like, I had to cut what, and before we get out of the chat, I just want to say it, and even a part of that interview, I cut it into a short. And I don't know if you saw the short. It was the one where they were reading a letter that they received in
I
the
did.
mail.
I
Yeah.
did.
So
Yeah.
that was in that video from last night, but it wouldn't let me put it in the video without demonetizing it. But I was able to cut it out into a short and not be demonetized, which didn't really matter
Oh,
for the
okay.
demonetization. But why would it let you not do it in a video, but let you do it in a short? But I
That's
thought it was interesting too how they brought that letter in to again victimize themselves, like how they
Yeah.
were so being mistreated and yelled at. And again,
Harassed and all
right,
that. Yeah.
you know, and again, they should have worded that letter even different, because they did kind of say things a bit nasty in the way they referenced to Madeline too. But they was
Yeah.
mainly focused at the parents and how they handled it and how they were taking all the money and lying and things like that. And it
Right.
was just like, well, yeah, that's sweet or pleasant, basically, like kind of whatever he said,
Yeah.
you know. And it's like, again,
Yeah.
you know, you're gonna feel real fucking stupid when a bunch of stuff comes out and that
Yeah.
smacks you in the face, is
Yeah.
how I feel, you know, because again, I kind of feel again, maybe it's just wishful thinking and hoping. I see Kate in orange. I just do. You know, like I
Yeah.
close my eyes and it makes me happy. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, her current haircut and everything. So I'm hoping it's pretty soon.
We can manifest it.
Exactly. I mean, I can, you know, manifest it and hopefully it happens. But, you
Yeah.
know, again, we'll just kind of see what happens. I don't think we've heard the last of them. So
No.
most of these
Yeah.
people, like, you know, John Ramsey is still doing interviews, and so is, you know, the Proudfoots and stuff. So
Yeah.
and so are the Wells. Again,
Yeah.
these people, and so is Casey Anthony. Again, they all come out at the same time. You
Yeah.
know, roaches all come out at the same time.
Yeah.
So but yeah, we'll look more into that and we'll kind of start unfolding the interviews and things. And if, like I said, if you want to join us for that on the chats, I'd be
Yeah.
happy to have you up.
Yeah. Just let me know.
Okay, great. So
Let me know.
we want to thank Tammy again from Barnes & Noble Crime Time. And let's see. Do you have I'll put your
Hello, Miss Tara. I didn't get to say hi to you. I was saying hi to Tara. I didn't get to say hi to her. I said hey to Chief, but I didn't get to say hi to Miss Tara. I said hi to her in chat, but yeah.
Okay. So I'll have your link to Tammy's page will be in the description to the video. So if you want to hop over to Tammy's page, she follows Summer Wells. Do you have any other cases that you're looking at right now, or are you just still kind of looking into Wells the most?
No, I'm just doing Summer for a while. I haven't decided how far I'm going to take her case yet. I know right now I'm doing Don Wells interviews that he done. And he only gave a few. He gave like in-person interviews he gave to share. And then I think he gave one more. So those are the ones I'm doing now.
So Cher got an in-person one?
Yes, she got an in-person.
You know what I want to do one day, and I want to have you up for, since we're talking about the Watts too. And Tara, when we went by the Watts house, and so I want to talk to you about that and how that was in person.
Yeah,
because we were gonna I wanted to do it on FaceTime with you, but Gus was nervous and he was like drive by photo shooting. Like I was like, dude, I was like, I can't. I was like, slow down.
He wanted you to hurry up.
Yeah, because he was nervous. I guess for like hanging around, like getting in trouble for like trying to take pictures of their house and shit. But I'm like, but I can't. I was like, nobody's outside, but someone already lives there now. When we went in November. So, but Tara like slowed down, and I'm trying to hang out the window taking pictures of the Watts house the whole time.
God. Yeah,
so I got the best ones I could, but yeah, it was way bigger in person than I would have expected. Way bigger. And very, of course, very weird and gloomy feeling in it. But it wasn't just that house. The whole neighborhood felt that way. So that's kind of why I want to bring it. And then we also went to the Stanley Hotel where The Shining was based off of.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we might pull up those pictures and talk about some of that when we talk about the updated Watt stuff, since there's new stuff about the Mistress.
Yeah,
so,
that'd be cool. Yeah.
But yeah, that would be fun. So yeah, everybody check out Tammy's channel. And again, we will drop the link in the description once the video is uploaded from my side. And I hope that y'all enjoyed this chat. We will be having the rest of the analysis up soon. I'll try to be doing it, if not tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. And, hopefully Tammy will be able to join us then. And then we'll just kind of discuss, the different things on that analysis and go from there. So I want to thank y'all again for joining us tonight. And I hope y'all all have a great rest of your night. And y'all take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.